Good Friday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, I will be covering a wonderful weekend of weather ahead with seasonable temperatures and quiet weather across most of the country, followed by a sudden stratospheric warming event. We'll dig into this a little bit more and how it will affect us locally across the United States, and then a cross-country winter storm next week with heavy snow, rain, and storms. We'll dig into those details as well in this video. Well, if you guys don't know, it is down to the countdown for my 1 year of being on YouTube. We're down to 12 days now, and my 1 year is actually on March 1st of 2023. So if you want to help out and support the channel, hit the subscribe button down below, guys, to get all of my daily weather forecast updates each and every day, and to support the channel here since I'm coming up on my 1 year anniversary of being on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button down below to get all of my daily weather forecast updates each and every morning at 9 a.m. on this channel. But looking back over the past couple of days, we did have a system move through the southeast and the eastern two-thirds of the country. Back on Wednesday the 15th, we did have some severe weather from southern Missouri down through Arkansas into eastern Oklahoma here, mainly with wind and hail on Wednesday. But even just yesterday, on Thursday the 16th here of February, we actually had 3 tornado reports, mainly across portions of Mississippi. But some of those severe weather reports from yesterday actually extended up through Tennessee, Kentucky, and western portions of Virginia. We had 14 wind reports and 4 hail reports as well, along with those 3 tornado reports, for a total of 21 severe weather reports from yesterday. That system is finally kicking out across the East Coast as we head through the day today on February 17th, seeing some rain from the I-95 corridor farther south here towards North Florida. Interior New England, though, we could be seeing some snowfall here across northern Maine, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and then getting into upstate New York later on today. But if you guys are still with me on the video, press the like button, the thumbs up button down below the video. Definitely helps to provide us with more information to more and more people here on YouTube. So hit this like button down below. Definitely much appreciated. But going through the day today, around noon time frame, this system will start to quickly move off to the east. We have some heavier snow up here into northern Maine, southeastern Canada, but it's all rain along the I-95 corridor from Boston to New York City, Long Island here, down through New Jersey, and then all rain along that cold front down through the Carolinas and parts of Georgia as well through the noon time frame. Getting into mid-evening, this evening, 9 p.m., we're going to start to see that system move off to the east, and all of the precipitation will wind down from Maine to Florida here as we get towards the middle of this evening. But looking specifically up here into portions of New England, we still have those winter weather advisories in the purple here from Maine back through northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York. Also, those winter storm warnings for a few counties up here into northern Maine, where we have significant accumulations yet to go through the day today. Looking at the additional snowfall accumulations from now through early Saturday morning, we could be adding up another 8 to 12 inches worth of snow up here into these winter storm warning areas into northern Maine. But the rest of us here into upstate New York, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and then central Maine here will be seeing more of a 3 to 5 inch snow event going through the next 24 to 36 hours. We also still have to be worried about some icing up here as well, some additional ice accumulation with the sleet and freezing rain. We could be seeing up to around 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice up here over the next 24 to 36 hours from upstate New York, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and central portions of Maine. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And over the next 24 to 36 hours as well, these road conditions across parts of New England will be minor to moderate here with those travel inconveniences. So definitely take it slow on the roads if you do travel here, at least through early on Saturday morning. Going through the weekend, though, into Saturday afternoon and into Sunday, the road conditions will improve very quickly across parts of New England. But this is the start of a nice weekend ahead this weekend. We got a zonal flow from the Pacific Northwest all the way across the middle of the country and the eastern two-thirds of the country going through this weekend. And if you don't know, zonal flow is actually our friend because we have lots of high pressure down here across the southeast, lots of high pressure back here across the Rockies and Pacific Southwest, and that will provide us with lots of sunshine and lots of quiet weather, taking a breather from our active weather pattern on Saturday the 18th. And even on Sunday as well, most of us, at least across the eastern two-thirds of the country, will be dominated by this high pressure system with dry weather. There could be some flurries and light snow showers with a little clipper system down here across North Dakota, northern Minnesota, and then back across the north central Rockies on Sunday. But this won't be providing us with too much snow here, at least in the lower elevations. Some of these higher elevations from western Montana down through central portions of Colorado could be seeing a few inches of snow on Sunday, but those will be in the higher elevations as we go up in altitude. But looking on Saturday at those temperatures, pleasant weekend ahead with the dry weather. Temperatures will be in the 40s and 50s down here across the eastern two-thirds of the country. Same can be held true for Sunday, and we'll actually take these temperatures up a notch across the southern plains and the southeast as well. More 60s and 70s being introduced across Texas, Oklahoma, and much of the central Gulf Coast states, and even Florida down here could be in the lower 80s from Tampa Bay down through the Naples area and the Miami Beach area on Sunday, February 19th. So some very nice weather all across the United States. And you really don't see a lot of cold air to the north, just highs in the 20s and 30s, pretty typical for this time of year up into the Dakotas and Minnesota on Sunday. But we do have to talk about this now because this has happened over the past day or so, a sudden stratospheric warming event, and actually a major sudden stratospheric warming event did take place across the Arctic here, all the way up towards Siberia and the North Pole. And this is going to be playing a major factor in our weather, not only going into the end of February, but more so into early and middle of March as well with our weather pattern. And looking at this here with the height anomalies of what we see above our atmosphere here, just going a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, you definitely see the colder anomalies here into central Canada with above normal anomalies across the north central Pacific Ocean. This goes all the way through February 23rd, so it does mean that we will have some colder temperatures across the northern United States, but that southeastern ridge will hang tough across parts of the southeast and the eastern two-thirds of the country. But as we get into early March now, we're going all the way through March 2nd, that sudden stratospheric warming event does start to make it down towards where we live here in the troposphere. Now, the sudden stratospheric warming event, again, that is up in the stratosphere, but as we go down to where we live in the troposphere, we'll start to feel the effects of that as we get into that first and second week in March, as we start to see more troughs and significant troughs dig down across the Pacific Northwest, the West Coast, and southwestern Canada, and these will swing from west to east across at least the northern United States, providing us with well below normal temperatures going into the early portion of March. But going into next week, though, we do have an active pattern setting up here with another major system coming in. We have that polar jet moving down from the northwest down to the southeast into the northern United States, and the subtropical jet from the Pacific moving in across the southern United States, and those will couple together in the middle of the country early next week and as well as late next week on Thursday, and that will be providing us with another positively tilted trough we'll have to watch out for as we get into late next week for another winter storm setting up as we get through the last week in February. So looking at the temperatures during that next week's time frame, we are going to have a winter battle zone on our hands. We got all those very cold temperatures up to the north. Southern Canada, we're going to be struggling to get above zero here early next week on Tuesday. We got the teens and 20s up here into the upper Midwest, but farther south, it's all about the 50s, 60s, and 70s down here from Texas, all across the central Gulf Coast states into the southeast, and all the way up even into the Ohio Valley on Tuesday. That continues as we head into Wednesday, more of these 60s and 70s. We'll be spreading up as far north as southern Illinois, Missouri, getting into southern Indiana and Kentucky here. But look at the cold temperatures to the north here, into the Dakotas, Minnesota, Montana, and Wyoming. We're going to be at or below zero across most of these areas going into Wednesday, February 22nd. And that temperature gradient just sharpens even further on Thursday the 23rd here. Into southeastern Missouri, down here toward Cape Girardeau, and even into St. Louis, we could be approaching 70. But in northwest western Missouri, we could be near freezing here up toward the Kansas City area. So definitely a very sharp contrast here, state by state, as we head towards the middle and late portion of next week. And what this is going to do is, as we get through that Tuesday time frame, we're going to see that trough moving in from the northwest across the Pacific Northwest here and the Dakotas. And we're going to start to introduce some precipitation chances to these areas getting into early next week. And with it being so cold, this will be snowfall on Tuesday. That will sweep across the northern United States through the Rockies. Very heavy snow out here into Colorado, Wyoming, even into portions of South Dakota, and then all the way south even into Arizona and northwestern New Mexico during the middle of next week. Ahead of the system, though, we did show you the warm temperatures. We do have to be concerned about more severe weather on Wednesday, the 22nd, out here across the southern central plains and then eastbound toward the Ohio Valley and the southeast middle of next week. But then across the north again, another cross-country winter storm with an ice threat here as well across the Great Lakes and a snow threat to the north across the upper Midwest, the upper Great Lakes, and parts of New England now as well, getting in towards late next week on Thursday the 23rd. So what does this look like with possible snowfall? So looking at the European forecast model with snowfall, it does have that heavy snow zone well up to the north here across portions of the Rockies, getting slammed with very heavy snow, feet of snow across the higher elevations of the Rockies. But farther east, we could see a pretty decent snowstorm here into the Dakotas, northern Nebraska here on this model, going farther east toward the Twin Cities, much of Wisconsin here, Michigan, and that sweeps across Toronto here, getting into Montreal, and then into portions of the Northeast. This could also extend into the I-95 corridor as well, potentially, at least looking at the European forecast model. The GFS model a little bit farther north and more bullish with the snowfall amounts here across the Dakotas still into Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and all the way across the Great Lakes here into northern New England, with it missing out on the snowfall and the I-95 corridor on the GFS model. But then we also turn to the ensemble guidance as well, especially far out. There are differences, and whenever you see these large differences on the ensemble guidance here, so for example, the American GEFS ensemble guidance is showing the heavy swath of snow into the Dakotas, Minnesota, and northern Wisconsin next week, but the Canadian guidance is a little bit farther south with this track across Nebraska, Iowa, northern Illinois, even as far south as Kansas here, as it sweeps across the Great Lakes into the Northeast. So whenever you see the differences even on the ensembles, that does mean there's still some discrepancies within the models, and there's a lot to work out here through next week. So I'll keep you posted going through the weekend and early next week, but there does look to be a very nice looking snowstorm on the northern side of this system going into next week. And just taking a quick glance at the snowstorm probability here, there's at least a 50% chance of a snowstorm up here into South Dakota, northern Nebraska, northern Iowa, getting into south central Minnesota and central Wisconsin at least going through next week. This would be centered around that Wednesday, Thursday time frame. But looking at the severe weather side of this system, and could we see severe weather? Well, it's possible. On Tuesday, a lot of the dew points down here will be across the central Gulf Coast in the 60s, kind of suppressed closer to the immediate coast. But on Wednesday, it's all about the Gulf of Mexico being open here. Dew points will be rising far north towards St. Louis, central Missouri, and southern Indiana here into the 60s, and that will be open season for thunderstorms and severe weather on Wednesday, and then that will push eastward on Thursday. And we also have to be concerned about the kinematics with this system. The low-level and mid-level jets are going to be pretty strong again, as we have another positively tilted trough on Wednesday time frame. We're going to see some strong winds out of the southwest with the southwesterlies in the jet stream that we'll have to contend with, and a low-level jet starting to kick up as well on Wednesday. So we do have to concern ourselves, at least on Wednesday, for severe weather. I do think that we could have more of a marginal to slight risk type of severe weather day somewhere across the Ohio Valley, down through the Tennessee Valley and the Arklatex regions and even the central Gulf Coast states on Wednesday. And that all just pushes east on Thursday as well across the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, and then getting all the way up to the north here into the mid-Atlantic late next week. But looking at the long-range pattern going into the first couple of days in March through March 2nd, it does look predominantly colder across the west and the Pacific Northwest with below normal temperatures here. And then it looks like we're going to dampen and suppress the ridge that has has been dominating the southeast for much of the winter, a little farther south now, getting toward the Gulf Coast and into Florida as we turn into that first week in March. It also does look pretty active, especially back here into California, the West Coast. We could be getting in on more precipitation, rain, and heavy snow again for the Sierra Nevadas here, and then that will transfer downstream across the northern United States into the upper Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and parts of the Mid-Atlantic going through March 2nd, with more snow probably with the colder temperatures getting into that time frame. But the unfortunate news is that a lot of this precipitation will be occurring in areas that don't really need the precipitation, in exception to California. We're going to see a lot of this falling across the Ohio Valley and the eastern two-thirds of the country, and unfortunately, we're not going to see much in the way of precipitation across the central or southern plains with this setup going into late February. So I hope we get some rainfall across Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle through this time frame, but it does not look likely going through the end of the month. So to recap my weather forecast for you guys, a wonderful weekend of weather ahead with seasonable temperatures with quiet weather ahead as well. We did talk about the sudden stratospheric warming event and how it will affect us locally in the United States. It does look a lot colder getting towards the first week in March, so we'll watch out for that, especially from southwestern Canada, Pacific Northwest, and then across the northern United States. And then a cross-country winter storm next week with heavy snow, rain, and storms, and possible severe weather yet again across those same zones that have seen severe weather week in and week out as we get towards the middle and end of next week. Well, thank you guys for watching. Definitely much appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, press the thumbs up button down below the video. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Friday, everybody. A great weekend ahead, and I will see you all in the next video.